Hello, everyone. My name is Maureen McDowell. I'm the founder and executive director of Keep St. Pete Lit, and this is episode 6 of Typewriter Talk. It's kind of our way of getting in the heads of local Tampa Bay writers. And today, tonight, this evening, this afternoon, we have Tenea Johnson here with us. Thank you, Tenea.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I was trying to think back. How did we meet exactly? How long have we known each other?
You want me to figure it out. It's been a number of years.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know if I remember. I assume it was a reading somewhere.
Sabrina, maybe our friend,
Yeah.
friend Sabrina, a writer.
Yeah, it's very possible. I'm trying to think if I knew you before I knew Sabrina. So maybe that's it. Maybe it was through Sabrina.
Go through that. We'll say that's it. But I'm excited because I always see you in kind of heightened environments.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've always, right? Like it's a party.
The room full of people.
A lot of people, and it's very like, how are you? Good. How's life? Small talkish. So I'm really excited to kind of dig deep with you. So as deep as you can in 30 to 40 minutes. But so tell us what you're working on right now.
What am I working on right now? Right this minute, I'm working on a fiction album. Mm-hmm. I had a linked novella, so linked stories, making up a novella that is on the cusp of being widely distributed, essentially because I'm an indie author. I'm sort of at the indie/small press author. I'm sort of at the mercy of production times. And right now, as you can imagine, production times are delayed.
Yeah.
So the EPUB of that, actually, I just put it on my site because I've been waiting a while. So that's out, but that book should also be widely distributed later on this month. So right now, fiction album.
Fiction. So you would just describe yourself as a fiction writer?
I would describe myself as a multimedia artist and aspiring social good entrepreneur. But I'm probably most widely known as a fiction writer / poet. Yeah. I was once a musician. So.
You were once what? A musical engineer? Is that what you said?
No, I was once a musician. That's the fiction album. So it's storytelling to music. Yeah,
you did. When you did a literary slam with us, you were singing and reciting poetry, and there was some fiction mixed in. So you're a Renaissance woman.
That's a nice way of putting it. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So as a writer, what are some of the major themes that you tackle? Because a lot of writers, I always ask this question right out of the gate because I think it's such a juicy question. So
I think for me, I write a lot of social commentary, speculative fiction. So the themes run towards inequality, sort of personal metamorphosis. How do you get through something? Because I'm a big proponent of one gets through, not over.
Yeah, I love that. One gets through, not over. Yes.
So I think that theme pretty much, it's interesting. I read reviews and apparently there's a thread of hope in everything, which I wasn't necessarily aware of. And I think with this last book, I centered that more, so instead of a dystopia, I tried to tell stories of people that found a way through their dystopia to someplace new.
That's funny. We had our episode 1, we had Chelsea Catherine, and I'm pretty sure she said that her readers also told her that they found hope through her writing, and she was actually surprised too. So I think that's funny. Like that's kind of a common theme somehow. That Did you feel that your writing was too dark, or did you just not even care? You just did your.
I didn't care, and I like to look at the difficult things because I feel like that's the only way we're going to get anywhere is by looking at them and not ignoring them. Yeah. So speculative fiction just allows me to be able to blow that up, and make it an entire world or a universe so that people actually take the time to step into those problems and see where they came from and what we can do with them now.
I love that. Yeah, that's the power of writing. You can create your own world
World building's the best.
Yeah. And think about how would I like things to look, or if I because it's almost like I get a chance to be omnipotent, let me be Oz behind the curtain And then hopefully the goal is that other people buy what you're selling, literally and figuratively.
Well, yeah. And I always think of writing as being very interactive. You know, it's like a recipe for something, because they create the images in their heads. So you can write words, but they sort of make it come alive when they read it. And each person's version of the same words could be a different world, slightly different.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Do you have your readers in mind when you're writing, or are you just like in it? Like you're just like I guess the larger question is, what's your writing process? Do you start with, these are multiple questions because my brain's like, let's start with, do you have your readers in mind when you're writing? Or like your ideal reader, you know who they are? And
I don't. I write what I believe to be true. You know, sometimes I see it in my head like it's a movie that's playing out and I describe that movie. And sometimes the prose sort of leads the way. But for the most part, I'm just trying to write simply and put as much, like, waste no words. So I'm thinking my reader in the sense of I don't want to waste their time.
yeah.
So waste no words.
So you have a book out right now that you just put you said the EPUB file. Is that correct? And,
yes.
Tell me about that book.
That's Blueprints for Better Worlds. So that's sort of my foray into trying to write liminal work. So liminal, in between things and the threshold of things. So it's a linked novella, and essentially you follow the main characters through, I think, 80% of it. Mm-hmm. And essentially the sort of the device is that each one of the stories, there's a design that's attached to it. So it's quite literally blueprints for better worlds. And they're not necessarily there. So again, it goes with that whole thing of the reader creating things in their own mind. And just whatever the tale, the seminal tale that goes with that design. Either this is how it was made, or this is what they did with it, or this is how they came up with the idea. So that one is explicitly about hope, because it's a pretty horrible world that they've all fallen into. So it's their way of falling somewhere better, you know.
And then as you said, the reader is co-creating, like it's a choose your own adventure kind of story, or it's written with the reader in mind, or
it's written with the reader in mind. Well, that's just generally the way I think of all fiction, is that you're co-creating.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's more so the co-creating aspect of it is I had a debate with myself about whether or not I was going to show the design for each one, because I know what I think they look like. But I decided not to do that and just go with an image on the cover. And I've even left it sort of open-ended as to which design that is that's on the cover. So
fascinating. That's exciting. I think with the publishing, well, no, I think also, like, with the publishing world, if we're in this situation with COVID for a while, which they're predicting, I think that a lot of innovative ways to put books out, and create new models are going to come online, literally and figuratively. And I think that it's an exciting time. It's just that kind of, as you said, that in between space where we haven't caught up yet with the new reality. And I think it would actually be exciting to be a writer right now, that maybe new outlets are going to come available that wouldn't be there traditionally.
Yeah, I think that's very true. In this particular book, I broke frame in a way that I haven't before. And by breaking frame, I mean like bring something into the real world. They're linked in the book. Yeah. Because one of the stories, a lot of it happens on this particular site. Yeah. And so that site exists like in its earliest possible form. Mm-hmm. And I like that opportunity to sort of pull someone through into the world and maybe pull that world through into this one, because I look at it as a hopeful book, like maybe something that seed could be planted. But it's also just an opportunity to do something a little bit different and to interact with readers differently. And also, there's some social goods been thrown on that website, so perhaps it'll appeal to people in that way as well.
It's also sounds fun as a writer.
Yeah, right? It is actually.
you're kind of doing something you haven't, as you said, haven't done before.
Mhm.
And you're working out a problem, and it's kind of like, well, let my curiosity lead, and let's see if this actually works. And clearly, because you have a finished product, it actually works. So
Mhm.
that's really an admirable quality, to take risks, because some people just kind of stay in there. They find their format and
Yeah.
their formula, and they stay in it, which is fine. But I think it's really interesting, people that kind of, as you said, break form and
Mm.
stretch the canvas, as you will.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, you're right. It is just fun also.
Yeah. That's, we're all, aren't we like, I think like 95% of what we do during the day, hopefully, is to amuse ourselves, at least for me. I mean,
Well, I mean, I like the opportunity to make connections as well. Being someone that, as we were discussing before, is at heart an introvert. Like, I need my space to myself. I
yeah.
can be as social as I need to be. But I think that sort of intimacy that you can have with a reader is something that's really special. To have a connection with someone that you may never meet, you probably won't ever meet.
Yeah.
But, and if you do it with something that lives on, because stories are always in the present tense. But like, the site is something where I can keep adding to it. The story I can't ever add to necessarily. The site, I can keep it going.
When you say the site, what does that mean?
The website,
Okay.
the website that's linked in the book. So
It's
yeah.
tied in with the book. Is it?
Yeah.
It's a addition to the book, the actual website, as you said.
Yeah, they're sort of separate entities, but they're definitely connected.
Oh.
Because the website it's a social good resources essentially. So it's an opportunity to sort of show that bridge the gap between science fiction and social good, bridge the gap between the world we have and the world we want. So
I love that. That's an innovative idea too. That's good for other writers to see, like, how you can kind of go outside just the bounds of the printed page and the book, and expand. And especially now, when so much of our life is needing to be online, how you take the book, and even like, you could have book tours. I mean, there's just so much you could do.
Yeah, there's a lot.
With the way that you're already kind of doing it, but you were doing it not because we have a pandemic. You were doing it because you were kind of creating a world and pulling it into ours. So it's pretty interesting, I think. So, so you have a full-time job, correct?
I do have a day gig, yes.
So what is your writing process with having a full-time job? Like, what is your schedule, or when do you fit it in? Or
I have a lot of things going on at once. I basically work all the time. So I try to make as much of that work as possible, valuable work, and stuff that's invigorating enough that I'll keep doing it. Yeah. So I work before work, I work after work. I usually don't take lunch so that I can leave early on Friday and get more work done. I work throughout the weekends. I work a lot. Yeah. That's all it boils down to. So my process is, and then I leave a lot of, if I have a thought or something, I'll record it on my phone, or I'll leave a note, because if I'm at work, I still, things come up. Yeah. So I need to capture those things in the moment. And it's actually kind of helpful when I can go back to it, because usually it's been working somewhere in the back of my mind. So I can just sit and write it down.
So do you hear characters, and that kind of gets the story going? Or you said it was the themes that you wanted to work out?
Yeah, it's always different. Like, sometimes it's just a line. Like, I definitely have a file of just lines that are usually the beginning. Sometimes, no, they're usually the beginning of a story or something, or it falls in somewhere. There are often plots that come to me, or scenarios, situations, that kind of thing. So the characters usually are the second thing. And even that, it's usually, I can see them or I have a name. And then it just unfolds from there.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because some people are like, I hear characters' voices, but you're all over the place. It just depends. No, but I don't mean like all over the place. I mean, but that kind of shows how you're, depending on your project, it might be a different need or a different, it is kind of like that with poetry too. I'll hear a line usually, but then I'll have a theme. I actually got commissioned to do a poem to lead a board meeting.
What? So
my friend wants to start his board meeting with a poem. So he wants it by next Wednesday, and the theme is home. And so I put it on my calendar, but it's also like, commission poems. It's just funny to be an occasional poem. What?
Did he give you a theme, or you can literally?
He works with low income housing and stuff like that. Okay. So, I mean, like, I could just pull. It's going to be really interesting. So
yeah,
work on that. I was like, sure, that sounds fun. I'll write you a poem in a week, a 3-minute poem for a board meeting.
Yeah, that's a good challenge though, right?
Yeah, it's a good challenge. So, all right. So, what would you tell your younger writer self if you could? I love that question.
Is this a family show? What would I tell my younger writer self? I would probably tell her to write more, waste less time worrying about things that don't matter. And like the things that actually matter are limited. I think it took me a while to really get that. So I would say that, and I would probably say, this is a hard one. At least go to, I think I probably would have tried a writing program for a short period of time, like for a month to 3 months, because I went to New College of Florida.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. But I do think I didn't value writing programs for different reasons. Like now I value them, but I still have the same opinions about whether or not they can help you write, but it's a really good place to make connections. So I would have told her to think about the pragmatic aspect.
That's all. Connections that you can make.
Yeah, but other than that, like, have at it. She wasn't bad. She was pretty prolific. So I like that.
Good. So what do you do if you get blocked? What gives you inspiration?
Well, like I said, I've got that file of lines, so that always helps. And for me, it's getting away from it. Go take a walk, go see some nature. Don't look at it for 2 or 3 days. Like, I don't worry about getting blocked. And honestly, I don't think I've ever been blocked because I don't worry about working all the time. And it's there. If it's there, it's there. And if it's not, go do something else.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so what would be like your holy grail of writing advice for writers? I used to say the Bible verse, but I tried. I liked holy grail better.
Oh my goodness. For me, it's probably waste no words. That's a stylistic thing, but it's also sort of an ethos. It's an approach that I take. So I would say that, and learn and keep learning your craft. Like, it really is a craft.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
It's very important to respect that, and read process books if you want to do, or just read other works and reverse engineer them and figure out how they did that brilliant thing they did. But I feel like it's a craft, treat it as such. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have something to say, sit down and wait till you do.
Yeah, that's a good point in all parts of life.
Yeah.
Like, what did I see? Silent and listen has the same letters in it. I'm pretty sure I just saw that. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think it's right.
I don't know.
Silent,
listen. Right.
Yeah. Isn't that fascinating? I just read that, and it's like so many people like wait to respond, and then they just fill up.
Some people don't think. They just respond. So.
Mm-hmm. The brevity of it all. So, who are some of your favorite authors?
Octavia Butler, of course. Mm-hmm. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, of course. I like quite a bit of Kurt Vonnegut. Mm-hmm. I like a particular collection of Banana Yoshimoto's really left an impression on me. I guess that's a lot of speculative fiction. I also enjoy like Jane Cortez, like poets still certainly, and songwriters always will have an influence, because I feel like that's some of the best poetry there is. I don't know. I tend to gravitate towards particular works, but so the people that I named, it was more than one book that I really enjoyed. But and I like some weird fiction. I don't know if I'd call Kelly like weird fiction, but I like I like the novelty of it, even though now it's sort of, you know, she remains awesome, but because she won the Genius Grant, I feel like now people might start to try to write like Kelly Link, which would be a mistake. Don't do that.
Yeah.
She's handling that. But a lot of different individual works. Is it Screwfy Solution, Joanna Russ, although I think she wrote that under a different name, maybe Raccoon Sheldon. So a lot of short fiction also. You know, I think I'm probably more of a natural short story reader than I am one for, you know, epic tomes that have 17 books in the series. You know, George R.R. Martin is great, but I'm not that one that needs to read every single book. But clearly, he's done quite well for himself and writes very, very well. But like, I'm not that person that's going to read the same series for years.
Yeah. What a skill though to be a short fiction author. Like to get a really tight and take you through all the emotions in a short story. It's such a skill to be able to do that.
It's true. I actually went to this so I did go to a writing program long after I started writing, but one of the really interesting insights Jeff Ford made was that short stories are actually harder. When you think about it, it's true. You can't really dither about to get to it.
You have to get to it.
Yeah,
so
I think it was
what are you reading right now? The authors that you named, or are you reading different authors?
Right now, I'm probably listening to more music. It's really hard for me to write and read at the same time because I don't want to bleed over. You know, I don't want to start to sound like whoever I just read.
That's good advice, though. That's interesting. Yeah.
So, yeah, I've just been listening to a lot of music, honestly, and a lot of classical music. Sometimes, yeah, I guess this time I couldn't really do words. I had to concentrate on the words that I was writing, so classical and jazz was about it. But now, I don't know what I'm going to start to read. I feel like I'm really behind also. There's probably a lot of stuff I need to read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So do you want to share a piece of your work for us?
Sure. So I'll do a little bit of Blueprints for Better Worlds. The first story in that, it's called Beast.
Okay.
Jack and Clem made their first sun out of reflectors and foil insulation pulled from the wrecked copters that littered the Gog. All those copters had crashed in unison, right along with the shuttles and lifts, rockets and airliners all over North America. But for a few intact blades and the fuselage of one that looked like it hadn't got 10 feet off the ground. In the Gog, you couldn't tell they'd been helicopters, but everyone, everywhere, had seen the footage. It had happened long before either Jack or Clem was born, before the first alien contact, before the sea swallowed all but the world's peaks, but not before pollution's haze dimmed the sky. The beat-up bit of Arkansas where they lived still got streaks of blue sky, but in most places, strong natural light became a thing to long for, and for the girls, one to harness. To Jack and Clem, the Gog's ruins were more treasure than tragedy. They could create possibilities with those ruins, make progress, fix some of the broken they've been born to. They built their sun to bounce light into the deepest corners of Clem's tenement. That sun's light ran through the big adobe warren of 300, past the hydroponic garden in the basement, straight down to the sub-basement, where Clem's grandmother fed the kiln that fired the pots she traded for her and Clem's food. Everything was work here. That is until the spring Clem met Jack, and the Gog became more than the edge of a boneyard. Still, the two of them built the best parts of it, two wild-headed girls, barely into their teens. So when a gale scattered their son into oblivion, plunging Clem's grandmother, Treese, and the tenement subfloor farmers back into the dark, Gran called on the girls to make another. She called as the two of them lay face up, head to head, on a patch of grass surrounded by a sea of thin dirt that lay just outside of the tenement shadow. Gran's voice cut through the orange murk of dusk in their conversation. Respirators covered the bottom half of their faces, but even those didn't hinder their talk. The girls paused when Gran called, then went on sharing their dreams of space, the regular meals and clean water, the better life that beckoned them off-world, but also the yawning spaces between ships and what prizes they might find there. They spoke of flying away in the new moon starfarer, of the end of gravity and their best breaths, released into a capsule that could clean them so they wouldn't come hacking back every time their respirators clogged. Gran called again. A third call without a response would get Clem chores enough to fill a whole day. Clem pinched either side of the clean cylinder respirator and yelled back, "Coming!" She rolled over onto her stomach and peered down at Jack. Clem moved her head so her afro blocked out the warmth that could have hit Jack, made a face that said, "So?" and cocked her head.
Thank you. I just was like, I was there.
Nice.
I love hearing stories when people read stories out loud, because you just like, you just go there, and that,
Yeah.
what a world you've created.
Well, thank you.
I'm so excited to read your book. Thank you
Well.
so much, Tenea, for allowing me to interview you and kind of get inside your brain and see what makes you as a writer. And it was great. You gave some insight. This is our 6th episode. And so it's been interesting to see how different writers respond. And they're really showing that there's not one right way to be a writer. Everybody has a different process. And that's what we really want to show through Typewriter Talks. And I appreciate knowing you, and I appreciate that you're still, I find it so admirable. People keep writing no matter what, you know, it's such a fascinating, as you say, vocation, calling to be a writer. So.
Yeah, Octavia Butler used to call it a positive obsession.
I like that.
And it may very well be.
I like that.
Really, thank you for this, for all you do for the community, just for you being you. We'll go get a drink at the Blue Goose or somewhere else.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
One day.
Live music and going to get some drinks with friends is what I miss the most right now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's funny the things that you miss. It's like that was not the thing I thought I would miss the most. I've kind of covered everything else, but I really do miss like going and having a couple drinks with my buds and listening to live music. Those are that's the big thing. So thank you so much, Tenea. And keepstpete.org is our website, and we have online classes going there. We're starting Zoom meetup groups for writers. So no matter where you live, you can join in to the fun that is Keep St. Pete Lit. And once again, thank you so much, Tenea Johnson. And we'll see you next time for episode 7.
Come back for 7.
Come back for 7.